Welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast. Your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on CageMatch.net. I'm your host, STRIGGA. We are back, and I am, as always, joined by the man I like to talk about wrestling the most. Very sorry, Flosh, to break this to you, but Dylan, how are you doing?
Well, first and foremost, shout out to Flosh.
Shout out to Flosh.
We have
he
a lot
got
of
sick
love
over the weekend. By the way, he was going to go to Berlin. Oh, he was in Berlin actually for Bash in Berlin, and he got sick on the Friday, so he had to go home. So shout out to you, Flosh. I love you.
Yeah, shout out to Flosh. He dodged Bash in Berlin. I mean, like I said, Gunther obviously an amazing wrestler, and the arena was what was the first time in 27 years or something like that?
Yeah,
wasn't that
like
when they had the? Because I remember I was a small kid. They did the Raw from Germany.
They had Raw in Germany. That's
where it was
the last big time they had a show.
Yeah, and it was Owen Hart versus Davey Boy, like the original British Bulldog, for the European title. One of the best matches in Raw history.
First European title match.
Yeah, that was a legendary match. They did it. Yeah.
Back in the day, there was actually a documentary before Bash in Berlin. It was the first time in over 20 years that WWE had introduced a new championship, or WWF at the time. After the IC title, I think there was.
Yeah. Man, I still remember that, and I was like 3 or something when that happened, 5, somewhere around there. It's crazy how times change, but yeah, they were back there, and so big shout out to Flosh. No, I can guarantee you none of the matches we're going to talk about on this show were as good as that Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith match. I will say that.
Yes.
But still very hyped to talk about it. And I will say to everybody out there, like I said, I am giving the disclaimer right away. And who knows, maybe I'll surprise you. Maybe I've swerved Strigga from our pre-show conversation, and I will be very positive on this show. But if I am negative, I will say that my week was not great, and that may have colored my viewings of these shows. So if you liked any of this crap that we were fed, that we're going to talk about on this show, then God bless you, and I will not argue with you. I totally respect your opinion and your love of the game, whatever this game is that we're playing, Strigga.
I want to say that my week till this point, or the last couple of days, have actually been very good. By the way, on Saturday I did not attend Bash in Berlin, but I watched the kickoff that they had outside of the arena with who was there? Big E was there, and The Miz did the kickoff thing.
Oh, it sounds awful, Miz.
It was really awful, but that happened, and then we had a good time out in Berlin. So I had a good time, but I still thought that what we're talking about with pro wrestling now was not really good. So I can see where you're coming from, Dylan. So
well, at least it was. Well, at least Orton was in the main event of these shows.
Yeah, he certainly was. That happened too. Yes, we'll get this out of the way. We're going to talk about Pro Wrestling Noah and their N1 victory, plus the final show that I've looked up at Cage Match. There is, for most promotions, there are shows that don't have a rating that allows a current total rating on Cage Match because they don't have 5 votes. But of the Noah shows that have at least 5 votes on CageMatch.net, this show that we just had on the weekend on September 1st from the big Osaka Eden Arena is the worst rated Noah show on Cage Match. And while the quality of the show actually might not have been that bad, because the show has a rating of 3.72, that's really tough for a show like that. The matches themselves, I don't think were the problem at all, but it was the entire situation surrounding the show, the final that really didn't light anyone on fire going in, the situation around the booking of the NXT guys, the long matches, and the overall length of the show that didn't really convince anyone that this actually was a good time to spend, Dylan.
Well, let's look at the bright side of this. If you're gonna be low rated, why not be the lowest?
That's
You
the
know,
bright side.
I mean, would it have been better if it was a 4.21 rating and it was the third lowest rated show? Then it wouldn't.
And
This has a
yeah,
legacy now. This show has a
yeah.
legacy now. The
Oh,
worst
sure,
show of
for
all
sure.
time in Noah.
Oh, no, Noah has quite the legacy this year with the lowest match in Noah history.
That's
Um,
true as well.
with
They're continuing that
Ibushi and
legacy.
yeah, Ibushi
Yeah,
and Fuji, and now the lowest show in history.
they're
And
innovating.
they're innovating, and they were on a run like from March until June. They really had some good shows, and I thought that the opening couple of days of the tournament were really good. The first two shows I really liked. They were running on the same day at the G1 as the G1 Climax still was, and while the G1 and in some of the stages felt a bit stale, I thought that the first shows of the N1 Victory really were a breath of fresh air, and especially, of course, the highly acclaimed Kaito Kiyomiya and Roy Oiwa 30-minute time limit draw that really felt like an innovative heavyweight wrestling
Yeah,
match
yeah.
in 2024 with such grit and such a hot crowd for it. But then the middle of the tournament, I don't want to say it fell off a cliff, but it was a conglomeration of decent to goodish matches with few exceptions. I mean, we discussed some of those off the air, Dylan. I liked Titus Alexander's tournament. I, for example, liked Titus and Keno. Tavian Heights had the match with Keno that was really good. There were others that have a high rating that I didn't feel that were that good. For example, the 30-minute time limit draw between Kaito Kiyomiya and Masa Tamiya. What else did we have? Dragon Bane and Kaito was pretty nice. But if the more we got to the tail end of the tournament, the lower I feel the ratings went, and the more I feel that the people phased out of the tournament. And of course, they had the situation where two wrestlers had to drop out due to injury, and that probably derailed a lot of the thoughts going into the tournament. But some of the decisions, in hindsight, you have to really look at them and think, what were they thinking? Like, for example, putting Josh Briggs up to 10 points, a guy who is leaving again and is probably not going to do anything for your promotion ever again. So there's a lot of questions up in the air, and when I'm looking at this promotion, I of course see that they now apparently are behind Kaito Kiyomiya, but we know from history that that might also change just in a heartbeat, where they just think, okay, we are aborting mission and we're going to do something else. We've seen that plenty of times before, not only with Kaito Kiyomiya, but also in recent history with Katsuhiko Nakajima, for example. So there's a lot of questions surrounding this tournament. Who really is coming out on top of this, except for Kaito Kiyomiya, is highly questionable. The one guy that they are now giving a match in a main event situation with Kaito is the guy that is leaving the company in Roy Oiwa, who had the best match in the entire tournament, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. And the funny thing is, you were talking about some of the matches that were maybe rated too high, but even these high ratings were like 7.2.
Yeah.
like the Kaito and Masa match, like even that feels too high. But that was like one of the higher rated matches. Like even the fans who are being positive weren't that positive about it ultimately, and they shouldn't have been because they weren't that good ultimately. Like even the final was like a 7.2. That
What do you
feels
think
like
about
what
the
the tournament.
final?
I felt like I was like a match ahead of some people because I remember their April match. A lot of people really liked that I was the low man on, and I think now people are like they jumped the shark for me one match earlier than everyone else because I think a lot of people weren't that satisfied with it, and I wasn't either. And the finish, And again, to bring up your point about Kaito, they're behind him to the extent that this tournament ended with them blatantly saying he needs to change himself completely. With Ogawa on commentary and saying, "Oh, you're just a copy of Muto. That wasn't even a good match." Overall, after he directly said,
Yes,
I dedicate this tournament to you, Ogawa," and Ogawa was like, "You just a ripoff of Zack and Muto." It's like,
oops.
yeah, I mean, so and it is what it is, The match wasn't that interesting. Definitely, I'm over them as a pairing for sure. Overall, I don't think anybody's, like you said, that didn't light anyone's world on fire.
Even they were over them as a pairing.
Yeah, like it's completely accurate. Like they did the storyline in April about it being their last ever match, and fate dictated they come back again,
Fate.
and I mean, it really was. I mean, who's to say what the injuries changed?
They happened so early on. There must have been some troubleshooting possible for that, because it wasn't. Wagner was out 2 matches in, and Kotoge after his first match.
Yeah, I mean, he had the second match too. He had the match versus Bane, and then Briggs was where he got hurt. Kotoge.
Okay.
Yeah, and So then the thing is, with all due respect to those guys who are great workers, they would have made the tournament better. But I really have a hard time believing they would have been in the final. To be honest with you, like it feels like they weren't even that big of a threat to get there.
Yeah.
It feels like this was, and if you look at it, really they don't have anybody else that could have been here. The only one that they've really had pushed was Morris with Kaito that they could have done anything with, and it just, it is what it is. They went with the Kaito. I mean, they could have done Oiwa, but he's about to leave. So
yeah, I didn't know what the result of the block finals was when I watched it, so I would have really loved to see Keno and Morris as the final.
It would have been fresher, for sure.
Exactly, just because it would have been a fresh match, but maybe they felt they needed a big match, or the biggest match they can do with the guys they have, and that's what led to them doing Kaito and Keno. I'm wondering if there was anything else that was planned that maybe got derailed. When I'm looking through the tournament, much like you, I fail to see anyone who would have made the cut there.
I think they could have done something with Soya, who got off to a hot start.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still Soya that we're talking about. Like, we run into the same problem of him in January, where he's good, but we're trying to overcome a decade of him being Soya. And I think he still kind of carries that with him. I would have, if it were up to me, I think it's almost criminal what they've done to Inamura, how they utilized him in the tournament. He should have been one of the focus players, and it was far from it overall. So that's somebody I would have pointed to that you could have done something with, but I think the ship has kind of sailed on that. I mean, they're already kind of sending him back. Again, they're like, we don't want you. We're sending you back to England now. And
I almost jokingly posted on Sunday morning, Inamura come to random promotion except for Noah, but I mean,
he is.
if he is going to another promotions. And I mean, someone replied to that. He would be a great fit for All Japan Pro Wrestling, and man, that would be such a great addition to the roster. But he's probably going to stay around for forever, for what we know. And yeah, he's slotted, much like a lot of guys on these rosters are slotted. I mean, Kotoge got a nice run through the limit break shows now that he got back to heavyweight.
Yeah.
That was good. I think he would have had a good run in this tournament too.
And he kind of earned it. Like, it's more, they didn't really even push him that hard. He just kind of worked so much that the fans rallied behind him again. And, losing Go also, I think, hurt the tournament as well, even before the tournament started. He could have been a guy that had a lot of big matches. And you can at least set stuff up with him being the 0-1 champion. That's a big problem with this tournament.
And like you, 1 champion, yes, right.
At least it's something, because, like I said, a big problem with this tournament, they really didn't set up anything for the future outside of that one match with Oiwa and Kaito. Nobody really has any upward mobility. Who grew in this tournament? Like, got to shine and stuff. Man, shout out to me and Sandre. We did a show about the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix.
Shout out to Sandre. We are recording this. I think we're recording this on his birthday, right? September 3rd.
Yes, it is. Happy birthday, Sandre. As well. I said that like 5 times. Well, every time we would record a show on the Patreon, we covered everything on the Patreon, by the way, patreon.com/EasternLariat, the whole tournament. And every time we would get there, he'd mention something like, "Oh, my birthday's coming up," and I would tell him happy birthday. So I'm doing it publicly now for that as well. But we talked about that tournament, and there was so much goofy crap that happened in that tournament. But the good thing is they actually took the time to elevate people, like all kinds of different people. I could name 5 people right now that either advanced or nearly advanced that weren't focal points. They got to actually move up the card. With Noah in this N1, it was the same guys as always, Kaito and Keno, and then the main focus was the NXT guys. So, and like you said, and Heights as well as Briggs, like the same is true of both. They're probably not coming back, at the end of the day.
I want to say that I thought that Titus Alexander played a good role. I think he is a guy that connects very organically with the Pro Wrestling Noah audience, and that specifically came true on the second day of the tournament in the main event against the semi-main event against Keno, one of the best matches of the tournament, except for the aforementioned Kaito and Roy Oiwa match. So he is a guy actually that I think is getting a push soon. And I think Kento Kobashi also said that he really likes the guy. So his opinion obviously has to have weight.
Yeah, he was on the Fortune Dream show. Titus was.
That's right. Yes.
Ago. Yeah. Like I said, it's obvious they want him to be their kind of foreigner guy, pretty much. They've done a good job with Jack Morris as well. He's really been, out of everybody, probably the most consistently pushed wrestler that they have over the last year or two.
Was double champion not too long ago.
Yeah, exactly. And Titus will be on that path as well. Again, and he's good. I wouldn't say he really. I don't get the vibe from him that I feel like he could be like the champion yet. I think he's got a ways to go before that. Yeah. But they did, of everybody, I think he probably was one of the ones that gained the most from the tournament, just from his position before and then after. And you can tell that he wants it as well, which is always nice to see. Yeah. So, he was pretty good. But they really didn't build anything going forward for anybody. I guess you could say, the national title with Ulka.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about Ulka, because I remember when we talked about the rookie of the half year, we both mentioned him, but we also were hesitant because we thought that they are hotshotting him, and now he was in his first full tournament. I think he did the tag league with Sugiura, second full tournament actually.
Yeah, he did this, with
Sugiura. Right. Yeah, and his first singles tournament. And he got 3 wins as the national champion. So also not really anything that he gained, right?
No, I will say that I thought, again, I think the highlights of this tournament were him and Heights, because we were seeing guys legitimately grow through the tournament. And that was really the appeal of those 2 guys that they had. Other than, because like there just weren't any great matches outside of that one, really. There were some good ones, but there was really one special one, and you weren't getting a lot. There was some good matches. Again, I'm not saying it was a bad tournament, in ring wise, but it just wasn't anything special throughout a lot of it. So you got to see, like, some of the best stuff was seeing these guys get to legitimately grow, guys who have not had that many matches total. and they're getting to face these guys and get different matches. And I will say, Oka, I like what they've done with him. With this company, now that I think about it, because I did share those concerns as well, and I said that as well before. But ultimately, when you see Inamura, if they hotshot a guy, I can live with that mistake. Like, I think I would take hotshotting over
Yeah.
Inamura, ultimately.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that they're at least getting behind somebody. He came out with new music, like really cool, like,
Yeah, good stuff.
yeah.
Presentation is very good.
Yeah, and he feels like a dude, and he gets it. Like he's a guy that's you could see grow every match. So he was one of my favorite guys in the tournament, and Heights really started. I mean, that match with Titus I thought was awful the first night. I thought, well, we know who the worst guy in the tournament is, and then he got better every match, and then by the end he was one of the best guys. It felt like, and he was really a guy that everybody was talking about too. If you look at the fan reaction to the N1 online, everyone was looking at him. I mean, just a great power wrestler. Everybody knew about his Olympic background. And, the fans really rallied behind him. So it is a shame, though, that a guy with like so few matches was one of the highlights of a Pro Wrestling Noah tournament.
How many matches did he have in his career?
Yeah, before this.
Now 71 actually, up until this point.
Yeah, an NXT guy with 70 matches, one of the best workers in this Noah tournament. I think that's kind of a damning statement when you think about it. But he was legitimately fun to watch, and he's got a great future as a worker. Like I said, with NXT, you never know what they're gonna do with anybody. But at least as an in-ring guy, he's somebody that you might want to check out. And we'll see if this actually, leads to anything more with them. Maybe he'll be a guy they can bring back for a January 1st show or something like that.
That could be. Yeah.
Yeah, the fans got into him. Even Briggs. I mean, a lot of the Japanese fans on Twitter were positive on him, but really, he's just big. Like that's all he brings to the table. Really, like he doesn't bring.
I didn't like any of his matches, to be quite honest.
He's so like his style is so annoying of like cutting these mid-match promos.
Yeah.
Which is clearly like a WWE initiative, to have. And at first I was like, okay, average big man. I really didn't have a positive or negative feeling on him the first match or two, but he just went on, and he got worse and worse. It felt like as the tournament went along, and I was just like, man, I'm sick of this guy. But by the end, but he is big. That is the one thing you have to acknowledge about him.
And take that away.
Yeah, if you don't have that, there's just not a lot there, unfortunately. But Heights, a standout performer for sure. But in the end, I just think it's very disappointing. The final ended how it did. The finish was so flat, and then you just had him on commentary just talk bad about him. And that's the problem with him in general. Whenever I watch him, and we keep having these big shows where he's the main guy in them and the main event, and they just never seem to work out. And by the end, there's something that happens that just makes me think, man, this guy has no respect in Japan at all, even though he's the champion. And it just feels like. And you mentioned it too when you talked about, they needed a big match. That's obviously true because they made the final match for the title and the leadership of this faction. Like they put every marble they could into that main event to make it work, and it failed. Ultimately, an abysmal number. To be fair, there was a big typhoon warning in Japan that needs to be acknowledged, and not like some BS excuse. It was the real deal, like legit reason. But still, at the end of the day, you don't ever want to be in a situation where you're doing less than last year by that number. And especially when you put all of this in there. And they tried, the effort was there for the final, but I don't know if a lot of effort was there with the tournament. And ultimately, where are we going to leave off this tournament?
Yeah, so when we look at Kaito Kiyomiya, he obviously now defeated Keno. The one guy that he has a loss to is Luis Mante.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at this tournament, he lost the first match to Luis Mante and then, except for the Iowa match, won all of his matches. I think that Luis Mante, when you look at his matches, is a symptom of the entire tournament. Because when I saw him early on in the tournament, I thought that he fits much more as a singles wrestler in Pro Wrestling Noah in comparison to when he had a singles run in Dragon Gate that wasn't really good. I thought the first matches that he had were really good, but then he also went on to the mid section of this tournament, and the tail end of this tournament wasn't good for him either. So I'm wondering where you can go with that if that's going to be a big title match down the line.
I think he had like about 3 good minutes of the Kaito match where he started off with that explosive start and he flew into the crowd and he looked awesome. And then even by the end of that match, I was pretty much done with him. Like I was like, oh no, you're still you. Like that. I didn't think that match was that good ultimately by the end, but a great start. And the win was they at least learned something from Yoshioka last year, where Yoshioka was just like literally a guy, like a mid-tier dude. With Monte, we're gonna give him a win over the champion. Like we're gonna make him stand out to start off, and then he still was ultimately just a dude. But by the end of the tournament, I didn't think he did a lot. He didn't do a lot for me in the tournament ultimately, and we'll see what he does in Dragon Gate. But I mean, that's again another problem with this tournament. As I said, they didn't build anything. Where are they going?
We basically went through every wrestler that was in the tournament, and there is nothing that we can point to that leads into any direction that will ensure Pro Wrestling Noah to have big matches down the line.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. What big matches?
Exactly. So we have Kaito. He is going on to face Roy Oiwa in Oiwa's last Pro Wrestling Noah match on September 14. Then presumably we're going to the next title defense, because Oiwa and Kiyomiya isn't even for the title because they announced that
because of reasons.
Because of reasons, yes. Because they announced that it is his final Noah match too. And
a very stupid move to announce that before.
Yes,
they should have done it after the match. Like that could
done here. There would have been an emotional, very organic moment. Could have been a great promo between the two.
Yeah,
they make up for what happened.
Yeah, wrap off their years-long story that they've told between these two.
But we can't have that.
Damn it, no.
So presumably after that we go to the Kaito and Mante match. That's the one thing that they still have. Yeah. Maybe in October.
Yeah, it's something.
There could be, let's see what big shows they still have on their schedule for the last months in this year. They have.
I was wondering if they were thinking about like trying to make a move towards Kobe, like try to run a show there or something, and maybe pull some Dragon guys there. But I don't think that's happening.
No, I'm not seeing a Kobe.
They've had a healthy relationship with Dragon Gate. Like you can't say what you want about performance-wise or anything. Again, it's not like he was bad. It's just he wasn't that interesting by the end. But they have shown respect to the Dragon Gate guys, and you had Kaito be the tag champion there earlier, and Alejandro as well. You had Keno in DG a couple of years back as well. Junta was on the show.
Yep.
Yeah. So they had Yamato on the Wrestle Magic show as well earlier in the year. So they've had a healthy relationship with them. It's a good working relationship between the two companies in terms of like how they respect each other. It's not like it's one-sided.
So in October they have Kirkenhall on September. In September they have Kirkenhall on the 14th. October. They actually don't have a big show. They have Kurikan on October 14th. In November, they also have Kurikan on the 6th. And then they have Akitoshi Saito's retirement in the Aichi Prefectural Gymnasium. They pretty much need a big match there too, I think. but nothing in Kobe. And then obviously it's the new year on January 1st, 2025. Yeah, well, they have to build someone up for that too.
Yeah, for big shows, can they get 1,000 in Corkin? Because they didn't do it in that 3 shows in a row run that they had in this tournament.
Yep.
They have no one but themselves to blame for all this.
Absolutely correct.
You can't tell me that they don't deserve like these kind of attendances with what they do and how little effort they put into things.
And we didn't even talk about the junior division yet.
Okay, before we get into this, we will say accurate opinions on that, but I refuse to completely hate Daga winning the title when he comes out as Goro Majima.
I can give you that. But how stupid of a decision is that to just go back to a guy who just very recently ran through your entire junior division in a 251-day reign? He beat Eita, Ohara, Tadasuke, Yohei, Alejandro. Okay, Starboy Charlie, yeah. He also beat, Kondo. That's basically. Oh, you have some guys left, obviously, but most of the junior division he ran through. Then you give Amaxka the title back for 50 days, and he loses it in his first defense. Well, sometimes I look at these decisions and I think, okay, there has to be something behind that. But what is it? I don't know. Amaxa is obviously going to Michinoku Pro for the Fukuoka League, but that can't be the reason that he's losing the title right now. So, what do you think is the thinking behind it?
The end game of all of this is for Amakusa to come back dressed as Kiryu.
Oh yeah, we can have that.
Strigga has never played Yakuza or Like a Dragon, is what I get from this conversation. But to people, and I bet honestly we have a lot of people that love those games because they're freaking awesome. They all popped for this, I promise. Amakusa's a great wrestler. I think there's a lot more upside with him than Daga, personally, but well, they should have just kept the title of Daga if this is what they were going to do. They didn't need to give Amakusa a V0 reign to break up two. Did they want to make him like a multi-time champion? Like, is that what like this was all about ultimately?
Maybe.
Like now you're a 2-time champion, and they want to break it up, like break up the monotony, I guess. Because there's no real internal logic otherwise than that. That's the closest I can get. It's not a good reason, but at least it's something. And I feel bad because I think, again, Amakusa, he's a guy that can just have. I think he can really reignite the division, much like he did in his first title reign that he had. He could always be a guy too, like be a national title level guy as well. I think he would be a guy that I would peg to be maybe not one of my top stars, but somebody that I think is a fresh face that can always be put in upper mid-card positions in exciting ways that I think a lot of these other guys just aren't that interesting in that they have. But with him, they obviously have decided that they don't agree with that. And now he's going to M-Pro, which I'm sure he'll wrestle very good in the Fukuoka League, but we just won't see much of it, unfortunately.
We'll see about that. Maybe something pops up on Wrestle Universe. I don't know. I haven't checked yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the one thing in the junior division, and obviously the other thing is that we have Rattels again. Rattels now have a new member in Yuto Kikuchi, who was presented by Daisuke Harada, which got a nice pop out of the crowd. And also when the name was mentioned, there was quite a good reaction, considering that Yuto Kikuchi is just an independent guy from Osaka. And
yeah, they were in Osaka, so
exactly. Exactly. So I mean, he's 25 years old. I've liked him since he's been on my radar in the last couple of years, like 2 years or so. He's mainly wrestled for Osaka Pro Wrestling, obviously, also for Dotonbori Pro in the Osaka region. But he also popped up on the Limit Break shows for Pro Wrestling Noah. So it's not like he has not been around the promotion. And Noah obviously has a very good track record of getting guys from Osaka, not only Daisuke Harada, but also Atsushi Kotoge. And Hayata and Yoi also came from Osaka before they, or from the Osaka region and the Kobe region with Dove Pro Wrestling before they entered Pro Wrestling Noah. So it feels like a fairly good addition. But when you look at the entire division, the junior division, it's just in complete shambles and it's nothing new. It's a situation we've been talking about for years and years. We once again had 2 title changes on that show and once again have new factions and once again don't have stability. It's sometimes I just don't bother even watching these matches because I don't want to get involved with that.
So annoyed that you confused OPRO and Dove Pro together.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Osaka Pro is so much better of a company. But the one thing I'll say about that, first of all, they got here the stupidest way possible because they had Hayata turn on Yohei early, like I think on the first night. Like
I
he
want to
turned
say
and
that Hayata also wrestled for Osaka Pro before going to Noah.
the fact of the matter is this: Hayata sucks. Like I said, they started up the tour like turning on Yohei and reuniting Stinger, which he then turned on again to reunite with Yohei again. It doesn't make any sense, like the storyline. Listen, I don't mind them reuniting because, in all fairness to them, again, I'm not fans of them at all. But Yohei's improved, I would say, from where he used to be. And Hayata's devolved, I would say. But they were important to that division. Like, you cannot say their tag run didn't mean anything for those few, from like 2018 when they showed up, until they kind of broke off and Stinger ruined everything, including my life. But they meant something to the company. So to see them reunite, I am not against that. I think it's a fair use of Hayata. I think it's much better than him being a singles wrestler. And I think it's a good partner. I like Yohei and Tadasuke as a team, to be honest with you. I would have been fine with that. But I think sacrificing Hayata as a single star to do this tag run and do a nostalgia pop, like the longtime friends and they'll always be connected type of deal. Like, I'm all for that. The problem is that we have to watch Hayata wrestle out of that. And that's where
we don't have to.
Why, and you just said earlier that you choose not to do that because you're smarter than me, unfortunately, because I'm the stupid one who watches these goofy matches. And one day maybe he'll surprise me, and they'll surprise me. I think if you were into them before, you're probably into this now. But if you weren't, then there's no reason to be into it now. But on the other hand, again, what else would that like? What better stuff would they have to do for the junior tag titles at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the champions were Kondo and Eita, so
yeah,
it's probably is an improvement from that.
At worst, a neutral move. That it's probably worse wrestling wise, even though Eita is like, a mystery of lack of motivation. is Eita? It's a career at this point, but at the very least, there's much more storyline impact with these two winning the belts. So, like, I'm fine with Rattel's coming back. You got a big moment with Harada coming out. You introduce Kikuchi, like the local guy who's now a part of this group. You get the pop. They actually were smart about that, and he's a decent prospect. He's kind of like and he fits them as well as like a sleazy heel type of guy. Like, so I think it's a good signing for what they want, and you kind of need you need a variety of characters to make a division work, and I think he's a good fit in this new Rattel's group that they have. So again, it's Hayata, so I automatically don't like it. But I think for what they did, this is one of the least egregious usage of him that I can remember in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Rattel's are back.
Rattels are back.
It's a lot better than Stinger coming back, like, which is what they did at the first show. I hated that. I was like pissed when that happened. I was like, you can't bring Stinger back now. I was very irritated with that. So I would take this over Stinger. I'll say that.
One of the better matches of that final show actually was the Lucha 6-man tag with Wagner Jr. coming back, Galadin El Mal, and Luis Mante going over Alpha Wolf, Dragonbane, and Shun Skywalker from Dragon Gate. You just mentioned the working alliance between the two companies. So I like that. They alluded back to the story between Mante and Shun Skywalker. That's always there, of course. And the elevation of all the luchadores that have been coming through Noah has been one of the better stories of this year.
That is true. I thought Alpha Wolf gained a lot from this tournament. I will say we really didn't mention them that much, but I thought he looked really good on his block and got to really shine. Maybe the block helped him. Like maybe the A block wasn't as conducive to, Dragonbane's style as compared to B block. But I thought Alpha Wolf really stood out on there, and it was good. I mean, you had that insane dive from the crowd on one of the earlier shows. Got to do some cool stuff. Big fan of both of them. The Golpeadores are a great team. They've been one of the highlights, and I think they're for sure pegged to win the heavyweight tag titles, which is a nice run. It's a shame because it hurts the juniors to lose them, but it helps the main, the heavyweight division. So, it's all good.
If you look at the heavyweight division, there really isn't anyone. They had to go back to Hitoshi Saito and Mohamed Yone to have challengers for Marufuji and Sugiura.
Yeah, exactly. At least you've got a real team now in there. And you did the same thing. I mean, they helped the junior division earlier in the year in their junior tag run. And the hope is maybe if they can put the belts on them, they can do the same for the heavyweights. Do you think next year they'll have another DG guy in the N1?
Maybe Shimizu would fit.
But yeah, that would be great. Like a guy that you could afford to lose and a heck of a worker. I think. If
you have Shimizu in, Shun would be a good pick too. I mean, he's a guy. But when I'm thinking about Shimizu, he could have really great matches with the likes of Masaki Tamiya, Yoshiki Inamura if he comes back, Manabu Soya.
Yeah, depending on his excursion status a year from now, we'll see if he's.
He'll surely be on his 4th excursion by this point.
He's gonna come back and then leave again.
Yes.
Well, Junta's told us that that's how these no excursion works now. You go, they bring you back for a very brief time, and then they send you back again, and then they bring you back and they bury you afterwards. So,
I was just going to say, I mean, it didn't work out for Junta.
No, and it will not work out for Inamura either. But it's their style. They're trying to innovate. Double excursion in a row. They're trying to do some different things. And we'll see where we go. So I'd say another good 10, 15 years, Inamura might get into that final spot for Noah. But yeah, DG, they got a lot of good guys. They're fine. Like the Yoshioka and Monte this year was fine. It's not like they were terrible or anything. They weren't that exciting. And you really want somebody to really shine. I think Shun would be the guy that you could do a lot of character stuff with that would be unique.
Mm-hmm.
And it would kind of help the roster around him as well. Because like I said, they didn't build anything in this tournament, ultimately. We leave this tournament, there really aren't any big matches to look forward to. Maybe some national title matches, maybe the Monte title match, but nothing that feels like anything that's hotly anticipated. And where they're going for January 1st, good luck guessing that.
Good luck guessing that. I have really no clue.
It feels like they would have to bring an outsider again.
Exactly. Yes. They might once again have to do Marufuji in a singles match and a title match on top of that.
What if they brought Ibushi back against Kaito?
Wow. I don't think that you can.
Right. So after last year, it's nearly it's nearly impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah, I mean there aren't a lot of great options, like to be honest, to bring in for outsiders.
Right
at this point, yeah, it looks like no updates on United Japan at this point. It seems like that might be going the way of the dodo.
Oh yeah, there is nothing ever happening again, I guess. After that failure.
Well, they had a good 2-show run.
They didn't have a good run.
They had shows.
They had a run.
Yeah, they had a run. You're correct. That was much more accurate. But yeah, no ideas really come to mind for the main event of January 1st, which is not a good thing after the main tournament.
Really jamming after exactly after you just had your main tournament. I mean, after the G1, we could reasonably think that there are 2 or 3 options for the main event for the Tokyo Dome, but here,
I guess
wow.
they can bring, like, let's say Oiwa wins against Kaito in the non-title match. That at least gives us a story to go
Right.
in, like a reasonable main event.
That's correct.
That wouldn't surprise me if that happened. Like, it's a non-title match.
Mm-hmm. That actually is making a lot of sense.
Now, I just don't think there's any better option. Like, I mean, last year Ibushi was this wild card pick. So maybe they have something like that again that just nobody sees coming.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of logical options, that to me feels like the best idea that you could go with.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
it's something. At least we came up with something in this 30 minutes. We talked about this, or 45 minutes, or however long we've talked
45
about this.
minutes we talked about pro wrestling Noah right now. Let us make the switch to All Japan Pro Wrestling. This past weekend, they had their Summer Action Wars show from the Fukuoka Island City Forum, drawing a little bit over 1,000 fans for Yuma Aoyagi against Kaito Kiyomiya. Aoyagi making his first
Kento Miyahara.
defense. Oh, Kaito Miyahara.
Yeah, the show would have done a lot less fans if it was Kaito.
Yeah. Against Kaito Miyahara. A long match that didn't really live up to their legacy. I want to say it was a pretty solid match, but nothing that will stick for me for the remainder of the year. Certainly nothing that I will have in regards for the best match of the year. It was a good first title defense for Yuma Aoyagi. They basically went back to where they were over a year ago when Aoyagi already was champion. Because it was his final defense, but he also faced Kento Miyahara around this time of the year, 1 month later it was. So they are trying to rebuild Yuma Aoyagi, and I think it's working. The fans are taking to him, and he has been doing the media rounds and talking about how he feels like he let All Japan Pro Wrestling down, and they are giving him the opportunity to go back and revisit his title run now, hopefully with a better ending than last time. So yeah, this one was on top of the show that wasn't all that noteworthy when you go to the in-ring action. The World Tag Team title match was pretty good as well. Naoki Doi and Ryo Inoue, I thought, didn't really do anything for me, was very short and unspectacular in the end, I thought. Mid-card match, I like how they are using Davey Boy Smith Jr. right now as kind of a veteran that is just there to eventually maybe have a title match. Who knows about that? I'm kind of, I don't know what they are doing with the Hokuto Omori stable, but I like the Jackie and Jackson tag team. That's a fun gig. And one of the best matches of the show happened in the opening with Musashi and Seki Yoshioka going over Fuminori Abe and Seigo Tachibana, who have become a real good tag team, working well together, fun to watch. Musashi and Seki working well too. So this All Asia tag division right now is a very positive situation in All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, once again, a lot to unpack there, but for sure, Musashi and Yoshioka, love them as a team. I think they work well together, and Abe and Seigo, they really fit together. They're kind of like goofy guys,
exactly,
who are also good, like really good wrestlers as well.
Sometimes if you have two of these goofballs, they don't really work with one another because being a goofball usually is a unique situation, and when there's another guy that's as goofy as you it doesn't really fit sometimes. But with these two, it just really feels like that they found each other.
And they're also good wrestlers on top of it. A lot of
Yes.
goofballs like Jiro are not, unfortunately. And even the Hokuto Army is. I mean, it just feels like. I mean, I'm with you. Like Hartley and Jack Kennedy, it's like a random team that works for some
Yes.
reason. But I mean, they all lost. Like all of the Hokuto Army, they all
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
I thought this was a pretty not great show, to be honest with you. Like I really liked the opener. The main event again, it was an N1 level match, I would say here. Like a good match that wasn't special. And unfortunately, these guys, you have higher expectations for Aoyagi and Kento. And you definitely have higher expectations coming off Anzai's title reign. You really wanted to see this be a good step forward for Aoyagi. And I think if I could have done it differently, I would have had Kento be later down the line, not right off the bat. Because it just feels like, oh, we're back to the stat quo now. Like after Anzai had this crazy, great, like fresh title reign, I would have had somebody different in there. The other matches were fine. Like the junior match and the tag title match were both good. I thought not special, but good. Well enough. I noted that in that Hokuto Army match, I did want to say that Hideki, somebody mentioned that in the cage match comments too, Benny Five Bellies. Hideki coming on the Evolution gear felt like a very stark tribute to Suwama.
Not only that, he also came out to Zawara's theme.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like concerning. You know what I'm saying? Like, Suwama's health might be not like it might be worse than it's even letting on, and we already know it's bad. Right now. So, a hearty get well soon to Suwama for sure. Want him in good health. A veteran of the company for sure. But yeah, that was I noted that as well, and the commenter pointed that out as well. So I did want to bring that up.
They did the Suwama pose during the match, the two thumb pose.
Yeah.
Also, lots of tributes too.
Yeah, Sato was there. It's so hopefully he gets well soon. But the show overall, it could have been a lot better. Hopefully they could get things going in a more exciting direction, because I think they've come off a pretty good run this year. They've been a consistently good company, and Anzai has been one of the best things in Japanese wrestling this year.
I was actually thinking, I was surprised that they did not do the challenge after the World Tag Team title match, because it would have made total sense that the one Elpida team that lost in Ayabe and Honda. By the way, one of the better stories that All Japan have done this year, with Ryukyu Honda stealing the Saito brothers' sweets and eating them, and him getting the comeuppance for that. That was actually pretty fun. And all these guys are just really, I don't know, they have something about them. All Japan has managed to make all these guys unique from one another, whereas good point. You go to other promotions, you go to Pro Wrestling Noah, sometimes these guys that are in Noah, they just feel like they're just stale, and they're just quote unquote wrestlers when you look at Manabu Soya or Masaki Tamiya. But with the guys that you have on the All Japan roster, they have all their unique personalities. And when there is a guy like Dan Tamura, he is just a wrestler. But even he has his unique character, because he's the one guy on the roster that's just a wrestler in comparison to everybody else. And Ren Ayabe coming in has a good run right now. Ryukyu Honda has been one of the better stories of the company. But I was surprised that after the World Tag Team title match, Anzai and Hayato didn't make the challenge, because I think that the best way for both guys to go, both for Hayato and for Anzai, would be a World Tag Team title run right now. Because they obviously want Rising Hayato to be more than, once again, just quote unquote a junior heavyweight. And Anzai, coming off of this first title run, he shouldn't immediately go back to challenging for the Triple Crown right now. Being occupied with the World Tag Team title would be a good way to avoid that.
Ideally, you want Anzai in a big position every show. If he's not in a title situation, Triple Crown situation, a tag run would be a great idea. I didn't even think about that, to be honest with you, but I think it's a really good idea now that you brought it up. Give him something where he's always in big matches. Again, because he's so good and so likable and just great at everything that you want him, again, in spotlight runs in every show, much like Kento before him. And I think they should try to focus on that a little bit more than they did on this show. And their match was fine, but it wasn't anything standout, or definitely not important. Like you said, having them be a tag title situation would be great. But the Saitos are on a great run as well.
Sure.
They may not want to end that run right now, and maybe that's something we'll build to down the line. We'll see them get a couple more wins, like the Anzai and Hayato team get a couple more wins. Because remember, Anzai and Honda were the team for a long time. They kind of shifted things around with this Elpida group forming. So maybe they'll give them a little bit more time to gel as a team, and then make that pull that trigger.
Yeah. What do you see? I mean, we have the Oudou tournament coming up. That is starting on September 14. We still have Suwama listed for that show, but we're not expecting him to make it, I guess. So the matches that we have for September 14, they are kind of drawing the tournament out now. 3 matches on the first show with Yuma Aoyagi against Ryukyu Honda. Upset potential, obviously, here. Suwama versus Joe Redman and Shotaro Ashino against Dan Tamura. Then, one day later, there is Kento Miyahara against Hideki Zuki, Jun Saito against Cyrus. And on the 16th, there is Yuma Anzai against Ren Ayabe, Hokuto Omori against Davey Boy Smith Jr., and Rei Saito against Bear Storm. Kuma Arashi, obviously. Great translation name, I love it. That's the first round of the tournament. Who do you see coming out on top?
I think that there's no obvious answer, really. With Aoyagi as the champion, I mean, somebody like Kento just got the title shot, so he's out. Suwama, you have to really question the health, like we said. And besides that, somebody like Honda would be a great pick. I know in the Carnival, he really didn't have any kind of run at all. So that would be somebody they could look at. You kind of mentioned Davey Boy earlier.
Yeah.
That could be a good placeholder title defense for Aoyagi.
Sure.
I'm looking at it right now. What about Ashino? That would be a good run for him to move up. He's not really doing anything right now.
You always have to look at those that are not doing anything currently for the winners of these tournaments.
Yeah, he's definitely not doing anything right now for sure. Hideki would be a good pick if you wanted him. You could do a little story with him and Suwama. They are kind of teased on this show as well. If Suwama does miss the tournament, I think those would be good picks. Ashino or Hideki would be where I would go with that.
Ashino or Hideki.
Yeah.
When we look at the tournament bracket for Davey Boy Smith Jr., he faces Hokuto Omori in the first round. That seems like something that he could win. Then he would go
very likely
to the winner of Ayabe and Anzai. Also seems like something that right now Davey Boy could be winning.
Do you think Ayabe pulls the upset on Anzai?
Maybe. It would be better to have Anzai out in the first round than have him out in the second round against Davey, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. It would mean a lot more for Ayabe to beat up the Davey Boy.
Which would, if Davey moves on, he would face maybe either one of the Saitos, I guess.
Yeah.
And Saito also seems like a possibility. I think I've said that before too on the show.
Yeah, either of them really could win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a good pick if they wanted to build up to one. And you had June be in the final of the Carnival. Why not have Ray be in the final?
Oh, right. Yeah, Ray, right.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
Seems like there are various options that are on the table. Ashino, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Hideki from the left side of the bracket. From the right side of the bracket, there's Davey, there's Rei Saito.
Yeah,
Let's see about that.
Yeah, that's good. Like now that we've like gone through the tournament, it's a good tournament they've set up.
Mhm.
I mean, Kento and Hideki is a really great first round match. You've got Yuma, Yagi and Honda. I think will be a really good match. Anzai and Ayabe, that'll be really cool. We'll get maybe another Saito brothers matchup at a certain point in the second round,
Yep.
maybe.
Yeah.
I could see
It
Cyrus
would be
pulling the
stupid
upset.
to not do that.
I could see Cyrus pulling the upset, but I think the smart money's on the Saitos
Mm.
colliding again.
Let me see. The match again of the Saitos would be on September 19. Oh, that's in Shinkiba.
Cyrus
Maybe
might
not.
pull the upset.
Maybe not.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, that one. But yeah, but it's a good tournament. Like I think that they've got some interesting matches that they can go to. Um, yeah, that would be cool. And semifinals. Imagine if it was Hideki versus Ashino in the semifinals on the left side.
Sounds very good.
Yeah, you could have Hideki and Ashino, and then Davey Boy and Ray Saito.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my predictions.
So very good options that they have right now. Wondering what is going to happen in the junior heavyweight division, though. We have Naoki Doi as the champion. Still, I think was it his second defense or his first defense?
No, he had the other defense.
Second. Yeah, against Musashi in Sendai, right? But when I'm looking at the division right now, it feels like that they once again have to look for someone coming in because now they are going to Naoki Doi and Hikaru Sato again. You could obviously do Naoki Doi and Seki Yoshioka too, or Naoki Doi and Fuminori Abe or Seiko Tachibana. Those are the options that they have, but they are limited.
This whole title reign to me, we're trying to stretch things out until Atsuki gets back. Is kind of what it feels like. And he'll run through all those guys you said until he gets back.
Yeah. Has there been any mention of him ever
he's kind of been on the back burner.
not ever coming back, but
he'll come back eventually. But yeah. But we're still a few months away.
Yeah, he was on commentary on the Shiro Koshinaka show the week before and got a really, really big pop from the audience in Kurgan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, like when he comes back, I'm sure it'll be a cool moment. He's a logical person to hold the title next, I would say. So that's kind of where I peg this division. It's kind of in a holding pattern until Atsuki gets back.
Yeah, the Koshinaka show really had good vibes. I liked that one. I liked the semi-main specifically of that show. That was the week before in Kurikan on August 24. There was Kento Miyahara, Seki Yoshioka, and Musashi against Tatsumi Fujinami, Leona, and Tatsuya Takaiwa. It was really cool to see Takaiwa here in the mix with Kento, and also Fujinami in the mix with Miyahara. That was really interesting. I like that. Main event was pretty fun too. Just a decent show. Good crowd on hand with 1,349. Good for All Japan that they did this for Shiro Koshinaka, who celebrated his 45th anniversary inside the ring. Wild stuff.
Yeah, for historically a New Japan guy.
Yeah.
Sure. What do you think about Fujinami taking on Hiromu?
Yes, they announced that that match is happening when I just came across it.
There's the tradition.
Yeah, on November 22nd in Kurikan Hall with Yushin Thunder Liger as the special referee. Yeah. It surely is going to be a match.
Yeah, I mean, it makes not a ton of sense, but
no.
I mean, it's a celebration of the junior division in New Japan. Like a legendary, guy, and the Liger's there. They're trying to like bridge it. That's kind of how they hyped it up, like the legacy of the junior division and all that. But I mean,
for a guy that is 71 years old, he is still moving around amazingly.
I mean, yeah, like he was one of the best in his day. one of the best ever, really.
Yeah.
I gotta think of it more as a heavyweight, to be honest, but it's fine. Like, they brought this kind of agenda to bring the old, like the different generations of the junior legends like into it. It's a lot of fun, and it's at least completely random and interesting. It's something nobody would have expected. So, all about Fujinami, all about Leona, and all about Kengo Mashimo, who was also on that show.
He was there. Yeah, that was nice to have him in the All Japan show again.
Yeah, I miss him.
I miss him too. Well, I think so much for All Japan. We wanted to talk about the KOD title change that happened on the Summer Vacation Memories show on August 25 for DDT. We talked about Yuki Ueno during our half-year awards show and mentioned that he is probably one of the MVPs for all of Japan, because there really weren't so many options, to be quite honest. It's really a downtime in Japanese pro wrestling, and Yuki Ueno on the DDT side felt like someone who actually made a difference on top of the promotion. And now, after a really good run that he had for 287 days with title defenses against Yuki Unaya, Dan Chokudino, Harashima, Akito, Sanshiro Takagi, Mao, and finally Antonio Honda. By the way, that show on the 17th of August from Yokohama, it was a really eventful show. You not only had Dan Chokudino and Michael Nakasawa in a typical Iron Man heavy metal title match for their DDT crowd, you also had a main event between Akito and Shinya Aoki against Toy and Yuki Ueno. After that, Antonio Honda challenged Yuki Ueno for the KOD title. So that final defense that went for 19 minutes came after Yuki Ueno already wrestled for about 15 minutes. And you also had a really good big dude match between Yuki Ino and Yuki Unaya on that show. So that's a small show for DDT, but really eventful. But then, Dylan, we went to Korakuen Hall. Once again, a good crowd on hand. So another feather in the cap for Yuki Ueno on top. 1,369 fans. Obviously, also due to Kota Ibushi making his return to DDT. Finally, the main event, though, has a rating of 8.09. Dylan, what did you think about that match?
Oh, the main event was, I thought it was a really strong match. To be honest, it was really cool seeing Aoki. Whenever he gets to be in serious matches, I've always really thought he's done a great job at DDT. He's really a mix of, he's, always leading into the comedic stylings and the over-the-top, stuff that they have there. But when he wrestles like normal matches, I've always really appreciated his style, and I think he works really well there against pretty much everybody. One of the big matches earlier in the year was against him versus Sihash in April for DDT.
Yes.
Yeah, really cool stuff there. And I think he's a great opponent, a great foil for Ueno stylistically, and a great guy to ideally be kind of the top of the heap for this particular company. The problem is, this was a really good match. I thought Ueno did a great job too. Really, everything they did here, it felt like a real war of attrition with each other, where things had to be earned and not necessarily given. And that's something I really like about Aoki's style, is that he was able to push that, and Ueno was game for it. The issue with this is there's basically zero build-up to this title change. It was completely random, and not the way this particular title reign deserved to be ended, in my opinion. It was too good and important for the company for it to go out like this. But I don't mind him being the champion. I just wish that there had been some build-up than just him coming totally off the radar to win. Even though the match was really good, and I highly recommend it. It was a great match, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when Ueno made the challenge to Aoki, I immediately said they have great chemistry. And obviously, Shinya Aoki has made his way into the DDT style of wrestling and comedic timing as well. I feel like though there is clear limits to this title run, and I don't foresee it to go that long.
No, there's just no purpose behind it.
No. There's no purpose. The purpose is putting someone over, right? Aoki putting someone over.
No upside even. like really, it feels like he just hasn't been built up at all to get here. I think I think he as champion could work, just not how they. It would be like if All Japan suddenly put like Hikaru Sato and I had him win the Triple Crown. Like that would be cool, but it wouldn't make any sense based on like where they've gone.
Yeah. Ideally, I would go to Mao after that.
My only issue is like if Mao had just beat Ueno, it would have been a perfect ending like to everything. It made to me, I mean, they've already set up him versus Endo as a match.
What a awkward thing to say up from him. Like he said that he is going to challenge. He's going to defend the title against Katsuhiko Nakajima, and the entire crowd gasped, which brought Tetsuya Endo out. Said he's going to take revenge on that. That was I don't know if that was a good idea.
Well, I mean it seems like that's where they're going. like Nakajima coming in. Listen, when you have
Are we really going back to Endo again?
I mean, that's a great question. Listen, the thing is though, this is a new Endo. This is Endo with pants.
Right pants, Endo. Yeah.
So a whole new man. Hey, I've liked his tag run with Eno this year, but
I really think that is the best usage of him.
You're right. like you're totally right on that. Maybe they think it's. I mean, they're obviously going to call back to when Nakajima knocked him out, like and
sure.
his vengeance over this thing that happened 3 years ago now. It's a story.
What a random thing. What does Shinya Aoki even have to do with that?
That's a great question. I mean, Aoki has wrestled in Glate before.
Yeah.
Maybe they could do something that where it's like a title versus title, Aoki versus Nakajima, like both belts on the line. UW, the prestigious.
The prestigious.
yeah. He really just wants to be a UWF champion. Like that's what Nakajima has. That's what he wants.
God, this company.
I mean, I think DDT's been better this year than years past in general. It's taking this weird left turn like suddenly. But I mean, when Ueno won, I thought that was surprising when he beat Brooks because I thought Brooks was having a great title reign last year, and I mean Ueno totally delivered ultimately for his title reign. He's really grown to be that next gen Hiroshima. I feel like.
Yeah,
and this
match.
Yeah, and this match exemplified that. Like this is the exact kind of match Hiroshima would have had against Shinya Aoki. And I think Ueno fit the bill, and he's really just
Let's do Aoki in Hiroshima. That would be great.
Yeah, like I'm told. That's the thing. Aoki's a great wrestler. If they want to give him a run, there'd be a lot of great matches. It just doesn't make sense. Like from where he's been, like you're kind of like making the champion and building him at the same time as the champion with him, and it just. I guess the fact of the matter is he is a legendary MMA guy, in Japan, like one of the best ever. So I suppose they just think, well, he just has instant credibility. Like, who cares what we've done in this goofy, like fake DDT bullcrap? Like, he's automatically believable as champion. And I mean, maybe that's what they're testing with him and Nakajima. And it gives Nakajima an in back to the Wrestle Universe, like, zone, like here. Do you think Nakajima would win the title?
Let's hope not.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean that feels like the logical end of this, like at least to the next chapter. I mean, why bring him in at all? Like, if you're gonna bring him in, would you bring him in to job him out?
You would ideally have Endo beat him, but I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it was possible, yeah. But like you said, I I mean, maybe Nakajima's like, look, I've fallen so far that I have to make some, adjustments to my willingness to job that we saw versus Anzai earlier in the year. But yeah,
Man, remember this point last year? Nakajima felt like one of the hottest guys in all of Japanese wrestling.
yeah, Joey, just him leaving Noah, like it opened up the door for so many possibilities, and he's really fallen far. And that's what I'm saying. He may be on his best behavior now, just to try to get in, like back in with the Wrestle Universe company here. And it's a risk. I mean, like he's gonna. I mean, there's a risk of even the locker room. Like, I'm sure there's some people in the locker room that don't want him around.
I'm very, very certain about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we know one of them, like who was his partner in that very match, like for sure. So, it's just it's what made them want to even test these waters, because it felt like they were doing good with Ueno as champion.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of move you make, like if things are going south. Like I feel
that's a move. That's a move Great would make.
Well, things were going south for them, so it makes sense, and it's still going south. Now, but like I said, DDT wasn't in Glate's position, right now.
That's right.
So why do you think, what made them do this now?
I have no logical explanation for that. I was completely puzzled by the by Aoki's comments.
He's a name. Like, I mean, he is a name. Like, whatever his mental state is, he's a name and a really good professional wrestler.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I don't know if
is he worth the headaches.
He's done so much damage to his own name in this past couple of months.
Yeah. I mean, and he's gonna need to.
Going back to the fans' reactions, but the DDT fans' reactions, they didn't react any positive to that.
Yeah, it wasn't like it got like
No.
I mean,
no.
Yeah. I mean, how could you?
I wouldn't go and touch that subject right now.
Yeah, but I mean, they did it. It happened. And that's what we're trying to figure out here is like what made them do this weird, because like things were going so good with the Ueno title reign, like all of the evidence points to positivity for him in terms of a business sense, and they're one of the few companies that you could say that about this year. So why? Like what? And like I said, maybe they see something. Maybe Nakajima talked somebody into it and made some promises to, like you said, like we were talking about, maybe he is just so desperate now to get out of Glate that he's like, look, I'll lay down for Endo. I'll do it.
I'm going to read this out here from Dramatic DDT.
The
public contract signing for the KOD Openweight title match between Shinya Aoki and Tetsuya Endo will be held on this show. That's the show that is happening tomorrow, actually, in Shinjuku Face. DDT is leaning more into the two men's connections to Katsuhiko Nakajima as part of the marketing for the match. Do you see that as just a marketing gig?
Why? No. There's no reason for that.
No, right?
The only thing I can think of for that is if it's some kind of Glate. I mean, Glate and DDT did do a team-up show earlier in the year.
Yeah, they did. Yes.
So maybe it'll just build up to a one-off type of show, like Aoki and Nakajima. And maybe they could kind of tease like Endo and Nakajima later. And if the Nakajima does good, and is on his good behavior and nothing crazy happens, maybe they could go for Endo down, in a few months, like there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, maybe Nakajima will be at this thing like tomorrow. Maybe he'll come out after the match.
Maybe. What we have coming up for DDT is the show from the Nagoya International Conference Hall that looks really good.
Yeah.
On top, we have the KOD title match, Shinya Aoki against Tetsuya Endo. DDT Universal title, Mao against Fuminori Abe. That is a really promising match.
Yeah.
Special singles match, Ryoshi Fire Kawakami against Yuki Onaya.
Another great reference right there.
Yep, another 6-man tag match with Ibushi, Kota Ibushi, Shuji Ishikawa, and Dan Chokodino against Harashima, Yasu Urano, and Michael Nakasawa. What do you think about Ibushi's comeback?
Ibushi also in Glade, just last month as well. So
yes, that 5-minute
yes,
extension with Sekimoto.
yes, yeah, that's right.
It surely happened.
It did. It facts. Like, look it up, people. I'm not making this up. Like I said, so a lot of Glade references on the show. Like, why would you partner with Glade so much in 2024 if you're a company? I really don't understand it.
Maybe the owner is paying you money for it.
That seems a very much a possibility. So Ibushi, he's all right. Like he wasn't nearly as obviously the Marufuji match was like an aberration. Like it was a once in a lifetime.
Sure.
Like nothing could ever be as bad as that. Pretty much. Like everything had to go wrong in that match. But he's still not good anymore. Like again, he's another one. Like much like Nakajima, he has a name. Ultimately, like he's been around for a long ass time, and especially in this particular company, like unlike Nakajima, like he has a legacy here. And I mean, he's another one.
He has a value. He has a value to DDT if you keep him in these kinds of situations. If you keep him around with Akito, Dachiko Dino, and others that he can have comedy segments with, I think you will always get a boost for the audience. But for anything else, the ship has sailed for him.
I mean, I feel like that run, its value is only that the fans that are already there may have a little more fun, like having this legacy guy. Like I don't think I don't think this was any kind of drawing match, to be honest. Like I mean, maybe a little bit.
Bush's first time back in DDT after years and years, I think that may play a role.
Maybe a little bit.
We'll see how lasting that will be.
Yeah, I mean, like this number was not dissimilar from a lot of their like Ueno's other like big show matches here.
Right.
Like overall, it's not like it's had a huge number, and like ultimately he wasn't even like that's not what this was about in the first place. This is a test for him to see how he could do in this situation, and I would say he passed it on that level. Overall, and ultimately the value in him is to have a big match. Like you don't bring him in to do this like forever. Like he has to be in a big match or it's not even worth bringing him in at this point.
You can do a big match.
Yeah, like to me you have to. Like there's no point in bringing him in like just to do 6-man nonsense.
Yeah, but we're surely not at the point anymore that he'll have a run with the title again.
No, I mean he's not coming in for free, people. Like I said, like I said, you can say what you want about his run. I mean, he's a name, like he's a big name, like they have to get value out of him somehow, and it's not these kind of matches. Like this is the first, like this is step one to his ultimate whatever their game plan is for him. But I really think you've got, like knowing him, it's really a one and done situation. Like I think you could build to one big match for him. And I think that's about all he's got left in the tank.
You know what the match would be? I would do Ibushi and Mao.
I would have said Ueno, but Ueno lost the title now. So it could be anybody. They kind of teased him and Endo in this match, and again, it was all right. It wasn't anything that knocked my socks off personally, but I mean that's somebody that. I'd like 2 legacy guys for DDT that you could point out. I don't know. I don't know. Like Ibushi and DDT, definitely it's cool to have him back. We'll see. But I mean, this match didn't do a ton for me. It was like a fine 6-man match.
Yeah, it was a fine match. Yes.
Yeah, and it was nice to see him back. In DDT.
Really was. Before we go, Dylan. Let us briefly talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Sure.
Because they just announced that Jake Lee is joining the company full-time. Nothing that, by this point, I guess, surprised anyone. anymore. He has had his run in the G1 Climax. He is positioned in a tag team with Gabe Kidd. They brought him in for the War Dogs even before the Climax started. So now we're having Jake Lee as a full-time member of the roster, something that I would have not seen coming a couple of years ago. When he first uttered the idea that he wanted to be part of the G1 Climax, we all chuckled and said, yeah, sure, bro. But here we are. He is part of the He has been part of the G1 Climax, and he is now full-time part of the roster. Much like you said, he is certainly a guy that they can use in certain situations. We saw his tournament, and we know that the limits that he has certain limitations, surely, and the situations that you can use him are also very limited after seeing him compete in singles action. But he's a guy that they brought in.
He's definitely a wrestler. He exists. He has 2 hands, 2 feet, all of his limbs. You know, he could throw some big strikes. He's got good hair. He got the beers.
Very nice hair, actually.
Yeah, he came out with the beers. You know, he's got everything it takes to exist in this world. And he continues to do that. He proves that he is a living, breathing human being.
Is he, though?
He exists. And and now he is a New Japan contracted talent. And it's not like he wrestled that good, but they put some focus on him. Like, you know, they had him in that run with Naito. They had him do the tag team thing with Gabe. You know, it looks like that's going to continue. So, you know, they're using him somewhat. But I mean, I think this is about where he's at, like tag team guy. I still don't think that's the best use of Kid coming off of the tournament, to be honest.
No, still as a singles title.
Yeah, the prestigious strong title. Like I said, you know, they should just have Kid do something on his own. I feel like something bigger. But I mean, it'll get him on a title match on the card, even as lame as the tag titles are in New Japan. And Jake is on that ride.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, we've kind of talked about him like for a while now, and I don't really feel any different than I did any of the other times we talked about him. You know, he's yeah.
What I feel different though about is Shingo Takagi's debut anniversary. He is having that show in Aimase Yamanashi. Show is already sold out, and for the main event there, we're very, very interesting match with Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Yamato coming in from Dragon Gate against Tetsuya Naito, Ota Tsuji, and Hiromu Takahashi. We recently had Shingo Takagi made a surprise appearance on the Gate of Miyane show for Dragon Gate after the main event of, what was it, Benkei and Great Okan.
Yeah.
Against Shun Skywalker. And who was there? Bushi. Yeah, sure, Bushi. I forgot about Bushi.
How could you forget about him?
Oh, man. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but Shingo Takagi made an appearance and said, yeah, well, we're bringing in Yamato for my anniversary show.
Yeah. That's basically exactly how it happened. Exactly how you said it.
Who can we bring in possibly from Dragon Gate? It's not you, Benkei. It's Yamato.
Yeah. Like, what? Benkei would
have been awesome. That is what's happening here for Shingo Takagi in New Japan. Road of Destruction is kicking off with a triple shot. The first is Nagoya on the 6th, and then there's a triple shot in Kurikan from September 8 to 11. Oh, no, actually, two shows in Kurikan, actually, with a TV title on top, Jeff Cobb against Yota Tsuji, and the never openweight title, Kainari against Hiromu Takahashi. Is Yota Tsuji winning a TV title now?
Why not?
Why not? Yep. I hope Hiromu is winning the never openweight title to have an openweight situation. And in Sendai on the 11th, junior heavyweight title, Doki makes his first defense against Taiji Ishimori. Then we go to the Battle Line Hokkaido tour, part of the tour, and finally Destruction in Kobe on the 29th with Finlay against Yoshihashi for the global title, and Naito against Great Khan for the world heavyweight title, and obviously then King of Pro Wrestling on October 14 with Tetsuya Naito defending against Zack Sabre Jr. if he overcomes the Great Khan, Dylan.
Do you think O'Connell will win?
Why not?
I think it's a lot of reasons why not. I don't think they're gonna take the title off of Naito to put it on O'Con.
I mean, there's reasons for that, but
but so yeah.
I don't think they will throw away the Naito and Zack Sabre Jr. match for King of Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I mean it's like a totally.
Imagine Great Khan headlining Sumo Hall.
Yeah, I mean it's just a. I mean that would have been true no matter who it was, probably. So, like, why not give? Like, this will be a big deal for Okada to get a main event title match. Like, that's way above where he was, like, even 3 months ago, ultimately. So, it's good, effective use to elevate somebody. I have my doubts as to, like, the long-term credibility of him as a main event player, but at least it's an attempt to do something. Unlike Noah, which we talked about earlier.
Not even attempting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we talked about off the air. It's like they don't even try over there. At least New Japan tries stuff, even if I don't like everything they do. And yeah, I mean, they put a lot of guys in these title matches. They have so many titles, they can afford to take some risk overall with these belts. And Jake Lee, we've established a living, breathing person, not a zombie nor a cyborg of any sort. They've established a lot so far in this last couple of months.
Yeah,
and
they did. Do you think Zack Sabre Jr. is winning the title?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it after we covered the final. I lean more towards Naito winning, but the thing to overcome for me, if you're gonna tell me Zack's winning the title and main eventing the Dome, who is his opponent at the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, that's right. That we discussed that on the other show.
Yeah, and I still feel the same. And like I said, I mean, with the AEW connection, if they wanted to bring an Ospreay or an Okada, to go for the belt, like they're gonna be there on the 5th. So if that is this weird time that they could do that, that could give you the opening to do Naito and Hiromu on the undercard. Well, because if Naito wins the title, he would just face Hiromu. Like that's already
right.
Yeah. So, but you could argue it might be smarter to do Naito and Hiromu without the belt and have Zack versus an Okada, like in the main event.
Why not?
I mean, politically, that's like they're gonna have to get over that.
Sure.
Because Okada would have to win the title if that happens. So they would have to figure that out.
Imagine.
Like, I mean, that if that happened, that would be a major story. Like if they were able to work that out, I think they'd go for that at this point.
New Japan would surely go for that.
Yeah, like I think they would do that. I know there was bad blood with how he left, and we know those wounds can linger. But didn't you see what he, like if they see him bring a lot to the table for that Dome show, that might soothe a lot of those egos and hurt feelings overall. So I mean, again, I don't think that's gonna happen. I personally lean towards Naito winning, but on the other hand, why would you do this right before the UK show just to have Zack lose?
Yep.
Like that's kind of like a dick punch, like to the Royal Quest people, which you are going to be one of.
I am going to be one of those people that get a dick punch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he loses, so like he hasn't lost yet.
No.
Well,
I feel dick punched. That's the question.
If he loses, like then what? Like what's the point of that show at that point? Like a Royal Quest, like what what would they do?
Interesting question, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that. It's weird because the arguments for both guys is that like the other one, whoever loses, does damage in some way. Either Zach, the question is, who would he face at the Dome? And if Naito wins, it's like, why do this right before Royal Quest and like screw over the UK people with it? So it's like either way, it's negatives. Like whoever wins, like with this main event they've set up. And to be honest, Zach winning, that explains why they didn't just have him challenge for the belt at the Dome. Like ultimately, like if they have an AEW guy that's gonna do that, that at least makes a lot more sense. I would say. So you could go either way. Like I said, I kind of lean towards Naito, but the closer we get, the more I can see reasons for Zach to win. To be honest, because after the show, like when we did the show last time, I was leaning pretty heavily towards Naito, but I've eased up on that as time has gone along. I think Zach has a chance to win now, like a real chance.
Too. I think so too.
What do you think?
Yeah, I just said it. I mean, I think he might have a shot.
Right, I have a chance, but who do you think's gonna win?
The more and more the show is approaching, the more and more I'm leaning towards Zach winning.
Okay.
Because I feel like that you can put Naito in a different role on Wrestle Kingdom. You mentioned the Hiromu match. You can do the Zack and Hiro. You can do the Naito and Hiromu match as well as a world title match on that show.
Right.
So that's where I'm looking at.
Or you could have Ospreay too if like
sure.
You know, they can't politically get Okada like they don't want him to win the title. You know,
Ospreay. Sure.
Yeah, Ospreay and Zack in the main event. It would be two foreigners if they did that, which I don't think they want to do either, to be honest. But I mean, Ospreay coming back would be a big deal to the New Japan fans.
Surely.
Yeah. So I mean, they might see it that way. It just seems like there's a lot of questions that have yet to be answered, but they will be answered. It's not like something where it's like there's no explanation for it.
Much like for All Japan Pro Wrestling, Dylan, there are possibilities on the table, and that is much more than we can say about Pro Wrestling Noah.
We've really made them into kind of a punching bag on this show.
I'm sorry about it, but even New Japan even managed to make the Great Okan relevant through the G1 Climax now.
Yes, and I mentioned that before. At least they made an attempt with somebody like that, which Noah could have done with various people. But you know, it's just a different situation with them. I think, to me, with New Japan, it's been far from like this epic year. It's been kind of a down year for them. Like, you know, it's definitely been a down year. I would say overall, they lost a bunch of people at the start of the year. You know, they've had to overcome a lot, you know, to get there, to get to where we're at now. And hopefully they can bounce back next year and start things off on the right foot. But there's, like you said, there's possibilities and hope for the future with them. Even though I think ultimately, again, the G1, Zach winning to me, I still say says a lot about where the, you know, their crew is, like the young guy crew that they have is at. You know, they would have wanted somebody to be elevated more. But they still got Tsuji in the final, and he looked good in there. You know, they did some stuff with some people at least, but we'll see. And with Noah, I just think, you know, if it was me, you know, if I were at Noah, that would be a situation where if I were them, I would publicly announce that, you know, people behind the scenes are fired. You know, like total clean house, like all new people involved. You know, you'll have to find them. But I mean, we've seen Stardom again. They brought in Okada like to do things there, and it's been a lot of growing pains for him. But their shows have not been. It's not like they've tanked in terms of attendances or popularity or anything like that. They've done a lot of stupid stuff. I will say that, but they've at least got by. I think if you could have a fresh guy in Noah, there's still enough on this roster that you can make something out of it. You know, and I just think that they've totally failed with everything on the roster, and we'll see where they go. Like I said, you know, and I just think they're at a totally different point in their development than even in All Japan or a New Japan, and it's a shame, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And I think that there's a lot of people. If you're a wrestler in that company, you can't be happy with how things are going. You see this 1,500 people like in the finals, you know, who's going to be happy there right now?
certainly can be happy.
Yeah, yeah, like that. They're not blind. Like there has to be people there that are clamoring for things to be different, but it just is
Here
what it
we are.
is. And yeah, yeah. And I mean, we'll see where they go, and hopefully they can build something out of it. You know, like I said, when I came into the show, I was kind of negative on things, but the more we talked things out, we talked about New Japan and All Japan and things. I do
DDT.
think there's at least DDT as well. I mean DDT's in a real random spot right now. That could go either way. It's something totally out of left field. It maybe something plays out. This Nakajima thing, he comes in, they have some great matches, and he's on his best behavior, and it works out. Or maybe it implodes completely, and everything goes wrong. And then where will he go? Listen, if he gets booted, if he blows this relationship somehow, and he has to leave Glate, what's the next step for Nakajima? Like he burns the bridge to Glate.
Yeah, there is Mexico.
That's it.
There is always Mexico.
Well, I guess so. He didn't like his run in Mexico.
Yeah. Too bad.
I got him booked. I got it booked in Mexico. Remember?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like true story. Like
True
I said,
story, yeah.
for the crash. Yeah. Yeah. Secret info there to everybody. But I don't think he had a great time there.
No.
But hey, listen, he's gonna do his thing, and we'll see where it goes.
You could have also got Kotoge booked for that show, but he wasn't in the conversation back then.
No, it's not that. The only reason I said Nakajima was because remember that was when he was the world champion at the time. That was my thinking. It's like if you're gonna do a cross promotional thing, why not bring this biggest star over?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really fit, but I mean, he was the champion. That was my pitch for him.
Yeah.
But it's fine. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, at the start of the show, I was kind of negative, and this DDT thing is at least random. But I think there's at least a possibility that it works out good. And Aoki, I really respect a lot as a wrestler. All Japan, New Japan, I wouldn't say I'm 100% positive on them, but there's at least hope for them. And I would say I came across after talking to you and going through all of this and of course all of the wonderful listeners out there to the Eastern Lariat. I have more positivity in me after the show than I did going into it, I would say.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what this show ultimately is for, right? We talk about Japanese pro wrestling, trying to find the good, talking about the bad, and everything in between. That is what we do here at the Eastern Lariat. And I'm just hoping that everybody enjoyed the show. We always hope that the listeners do. And Dylan, I certainly did.
And I did too.
Yeah, I always do.
Like I said, it's almost like therapy. You came in earlier. You were saying how much you hated that Noah show on there, and I felt like we really got a lot off of our chest. So both of us, and you especially, because it was so fresh to you. You just had got done watching that final. So we got a lot off our chests, a lot off of our minds, and a lot off our hearts, and that's the great thing. And we would love to hear from all the listeners out there too. If you have any things that you watched and was just like, oh man, this sucked. We'll love to hear that. If you want to question us, like we're always up for questions, especially on the YouTube page. We get there's a lot of good commenters on our YouTube channel. Always talk to us, and I always like answering the YouTube commenters out there. So big shout outs to those guys. I also like a lot of usernames. We've had good commenters with both Futurama and Pokemon references recently. So big fans of that for sure. You can always message us on Twitter at Eastern Lariat. Let us know what you're liking in wrestling too. You can talk to us about good stuff too. It's not all bad. There was we talked about it too. The very emotional TAKAYAMANIA show.
Yes.
Such an amazing there's no. It's not like we can really offer any analysis for it.
No, this is just
emotional.
Another example of how real pro wrestling can get. With grown men like Minoru Suzuki and Yoshihiro Takayama just losing it all and crying inside the ring about a terrible situation that Yoshihiro Takayama is in. But him being brought into the ring,
yeah,
I think that I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now, because that is something that he has wanted for years and years and years. And even though he can't walk to the ring himself like Hayabusa did back in the day,
Yeah.
I think for him it meant a lot to just be in this environment again and not be in a hospital bed or wherever he's doing his physical therapy. That has to be something that empowers him for the coming future.
And just hear the fans chant his name again. That's so powerful. Like, I mean, I could say, like, for sure, like on a much smaller level, obviously, like what I was doing, but just to hear like a room full of people, or in his case, an arena full of people chant your name, it's a feeling you can't really get in any other situation except that very specific one. And I'm really glad that he got to have that moment. Like you said, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, I'm getting emotional even thinking about how it happened with Minoru, cutting that promo on him, telling him, like they did like an impromptu match, but it went to a no decision on there. Just an emotional thing that Suzuki said, saying, like if you're mad about it, like I need you to get up and kick me in the face on there. And I thought about that same thing. It's funny you mentioned that about Hayabusa. That's exactly what I thought of, like when that happened was when that happened. And I pray to God one day we can see that where he can stand up like Hayabusa did, and hopefully a lot of these funds that have come in, we can hope for a miracle on that end, and a lot of the great people that his contemporaries, friends, and legends of wrestling and the sport have come together to help him out and benefit him, and definitely something we need to see more of and continue. And like I said, hopefully one day we can see that and he can get that big moment for it. Never mind wrestling, just this man's life, and a true warrior in and out of the ring, and no matter who it is, you would root for that. But him is like one of the greatest legends in Japanese wrestling, one of my all-time favorites as well. No Fear, one of my favorite tag teams. Everybody knows I love Omori, and it started with that team. So just an amazing thing that, like you said, it goes to show how special and how real wrestling really is overall. You get to see that moment, and that's something. No matter how bad, whatever goofy match we talk about on, that can never take away how great wrestling is itself, and those are the kind of moments that make you remember that.
For sure, those are great closing words on your end.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all for listening to this show. This has been the Eastern Lariat. Goodbye.
Sayonara.